At that point, we heard the honking of a car horn. It was Ito signaling that it was time for us to go back to work. Our half-hour lunch break was over. That evening, and for several days after, I was too tired to play outside when we got home from work. I went straight to bed after supper, but as I got more and more used to picking strawberries, I began to play kick the can again. The game was always the same. We played by Carlos's rules and refused to let Manuelito play. Work was always the same, too. We picked from 6 in the morning till 6 in the afternoon. Even though the days were long, I looked forward to seeing Gabriel and to having lunch with him every day. I enjoyed listening to him tell stories and talk about Mexico. He was as proud of being from the state of Morelos as my father was from being from Jalisco. One Sunday near the end of the strawberry season, Ito sent me to work for a sharecropper who was sick and needed extra help that day. His field was next to Ito. Gabriel was loaned out to the same farmer. As soon as I arrived, the contratista began giving me orders. "Listen, Enrico, I want you to hoe weeds, but first give me and Gabriel a hand," he said. Gabriel and I climbed to the bed of the truck and helped him unload a plow. The contratista tied one end of the thick rope to it and handed the other end to Gabriel and said, "Here, tie this around your waist. I want you to till the furrows." "I can't do that," Gabriel said with a pained look on his face. "What do you mean you can't?" responded the contratista, placing his hands on his hips. "In my country, oxen pull plows, not men," Gabriel replied, tilting his hat back. "I am not an animal." The contratista walked up to Gabriel and yelled in his face, "Well, this isn't your country, idiot. You either do as I say or I'll have you fired." "Don't do that, please," Gabriel said. "I have a family to feed." "I don't give a damn about your family," the contratista replied, grabbing Gabriel by the shirt collar and pushing him. Gabriel lost his balance and fell backwards. After he hit the ground, the contratista kicked him in the side with the tip of his boot. Gabriel sprung up and with both hands clenched lunged at the contratista. White as a ghost, Diaz quickly jumped back. "Don't be stupid, your family," he stammered. Gabriel held back. His face was flushed with rage. Without taking his eyes off of Gabriel, the contratista slid into his truck and sped off, leaving us in a cloud of dust. I felt scared. I had never seen men fight before. My mouth felt dry and my hands and legs began to shake. Gabriel threw his hat on the ground and said angrily, "That Diaz is a coward. He thinks he's a big man because he runs the bracero camp for the growers. He's nothing but a leech, and now he treats me like an animal." Then he said, picking up his hat and putting it on, he added, "He can cheat me out of my money. He can fire me, but he cannot force me to do what isn't right. He can't take away my dignity. That he cannot do." All day while Gabriel and I hoed weeds, I kept thinking about what had happened that morning. It made me angry and sad. Gabriel cursed as he hacked at the weeds. When I got home from work that night, I felt restless. I went outside to play kick the can. "Come on, guys, let's play," Carlos yelled out, resting his right foot on the can. I went up to Manuelito, who was sitting on the ground, leaning against one of the garbage cans. "You heard Carlos. Let's play," I said loudly so Carlos could hear me. "He didn't mean me," Manuelito answered, slowly getting up. "Yes, you too," I insisted. "Is that true, Carlos?" Manuelito asked. "No way," Carlos shouted. Manuelito put his hands in his pockets and walked away. "If Manuelito doesn't play, I won't either." My knees felt weak. Carlos came up to me. He had fire in his eyes. "Manuelito doesn't play," he yelled. He stuck his right foot behind me and pushed me. I fell flat on my back. My brothers rushed over to help me up. "You can push me around, but you can't force me to play," I yelled back, dusting off my clothes and walking away. Trumpito, Torito, Ruben, and Manuelito followed me to the front of our barrack. Carlos stood alone inside the circle in the dirt, looking at the can and glancing at us once in a while. After a few minutes, he cocked his head back, spat on the ground, and swaggered toward us, saying, "Okay, Manuelito can play. Screaming for joy, Manuelito and my brothers jumped up and down like grasshoppers. I felt like celebrating too, but I held back. I did not want Carlos to see how happy I was. The next morning, when Ito told us that the contratista had gotten Gabriel fired and sent back to Mexico, I felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach. I could not concentrate on my work. At times I found myself not moving at all. By the time I had packed one crepe, Papa had picked two. He finished his row, started his second, and caught up to me. "What's the matter, Panchito?" he asked. "You're moving too slow. You need to speed up." "I keep thinking about Gabriel," I answered. "What Diaz did was wrong, and someday he'll pay for it. If not in this life, then the next one," he said. "Gabriel did what he had to do." Papa pushed me along, handing me several handfuls of strawberries he picked from my row. With his help, I got through that long day. When we got home from work, I did not play kick the can. I wanted to be alone, but my brothers would not let me. They followed me around, asking me to play. I finally gave in when Manuelito came over and joined us. "Please, just one game," he pleaded. "Okay, just one," I answered. We drew sticks to see who would play guard. Carlos was it. While he counted to 20 with his eyes closed, we ran and hid. I went behind a pepper tree that was the end of our next to our outhouse. When Carlos spotted me, he shouted, "I spy Panchito." We both raced to the can. I got to it first and kicked it with all my might. I went up in the air and landed in one of the garbage cans. That was the last time I ever played that game.